Book is largely about my own experiences and something I end up talking with our customers about all the time. It 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 really was one, it was a passion project, and it was something I enjoy writing about.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Wednesday, and as usual, I am your host, Andrew Dupy, Chief Relationship Officer at Leaders Press, and this is Leaders Talk. And today, just after the holidays, I have a very special guest here with us. That is going to be Matt Kleiman. So let me have a chance to introduce you a little bit here to Matt. So Matt is the CEO of Cumulus DS. It's a technology company that focuses on delivery of a digital twin in the workforce. Most digital twin applications concentrate on physical assets, leaving the workforce kind of to the side. But advances such as low power, Bluetooth transmitters, accelerometers, GPS sensors, pressure gauges, they're all being applied to tools like wrenches and power tools and minor equipment like pumps. Cumulus collects the data of all of that interface and human worker and their tools in the environment to create a real-time view of the workforce, as well as an audit trail that when you carry it out, it yields dramatic savings. And with us, Matt has put that information into Work Done Right, his soon-to-be best-selling book. Matt, welcome. I didn't understand half of what I said on that intro, but when we actually talked before, though, I think it's going to break down really easily to our audience. So tell us a little bit about you and about Work Done Right.
Hey Andrew, great to be here. Happy New Year. And
Happy
no,
New
that was a
Year.
great description, and really looking forward to our discussion and diving into what that's all about and how that relates to Work Done Right. At the highest level, Work Done Right really explains what we do both in Cumulus and what my career is focused on for the last 15 years or so, which is work quality for critical work in the field. And by field, I mean whether it's construction or maintenance, it's human beings have to go out and do something. And you could think about, you might have a factory floor where you have a quality management system to make sure that every unit of whatever it is you're building is built to specification.
Right.
Well, that's what we do for work in the field. There is a tremendous problem in the industrial world with rework, and that is work that wasn't done properly and has to be redone. And the rework rate in construction, for example, is about 30%, meaning that 30% of all work that gets done isn't done right, and it has to be redone. If you've had work done on your house or a contractor come, you might have experienced the pain of rework, which is it adds a lot of cost and time to projects, and it's also a big safety problem on site. So my original background is from the aerospace world, where if you can imagine an aircraft maintenance having a 30% rework rate, meaning 30% of maintenance that wasn't done properly, the outcry and outroar that there would be. But I've been spending the last 15 years applying all those learnings from aerospace, where you don't have those rework rates, where work is done right the first time, and bringing that into the world of construction and industrial operations. And that's what Cumulus does, and that's what the book is about.
So much of that makes sense, though. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with it, take a minute just to look at the amount of actual work that goes into aerospace and goes into the simple fact is of just flying an airplane from one point to another, all of the points of failure that can go on with that, and how much work goes into preventing any of those points of failure. Because one point of failure, you lose 300 people in an airplane.
Yep.
But we don't ever think of that in how can we apply that maybe to something like industry, which also has a high risk of injury or death on the workplace. We've never really applied the amount of standards we have in aerospace to those kind of industries. So was that kind of your motivation when you went into this?
Yeah, exactly. In the aerospace world, pretty much everybody, certainly in the United States, but globally, either has or can picture themselves taking an airplane flight somewhere. So
Yeah.
it is aircraft safety is very personal to almost everybody. And that when there is an unfortunate accident, there is a huge amount of public attention, whether it's any criminal negligence or congressional hearings. Certainly in NTSB, investigation of whatever happened, and those learnings are then incorporated. We don't do the same thing in heavy industry. When there's an accident, there's certainly attempts to get learnings from that and to improve, but the general public at large and the government, both at the federal and local levels, really keep generally a very hands-off approach to regulating these industries. Now, in general, that you can get into a political discussion about the role of regulation and whether that helps the economy, but from a safety perspective, we certainly don't do enough to make sure that workers are safe, and then the industry has an economic self-interest in making sure that they're not doing rework all the time. So,
Yeah.
but that there has always been that barrier around the industry where they say, well, we've been doing it this way for so many years. We don't culturally like to talk about when things go wrong. And that is just contrary to what happens in aerospace. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to jump from aerospace into heavy industry and really saw my career my career goals for the last, as I mentioned, decade and a half have been looking around saying, wait, there's a better way to do this, and to teach, cajole, whatever term you might be, the industry into applying lessons that have served the aerospace world well for decades.
And it's so important too to have like some kind of piece of media, a book or something that you can actually then progress beyond even a book that makes it easy for everybody that's in the industry to actually understand what's going on. I immediately came to mind what you're saying, like there aren't really that many standards. I remember everybody makes fun of it, shake hands with danger, the video they put out
Right.
in like the 70s. Nobody listened to that. It's like when you're in high school and they put up the STD video, everybody goes to
Exactly.
sleep until the end of it. So
Exactly.
I feel like it's really important to have something that actually takes and applies the information that you're trying to convey properly.
It is. And that was a nice thing about working with Leaders Press, is that a lot of publishers that we had looked at my team and I had looked at for the book, they were looking for this, an academic tome on work quality and engineering. And that's not our target audience. Our target audience are not academics, are not people who are looking to sit and read a 300-page contemplation of safety and quality practices. While we certainly could have written that, it was nice, we wrote this very concise, plain language book that just says, here's a bunch of anecdotes and a framework to use if you are a safety manager, a quality manager at an industrial facility or on a construction site, that you can read probably in one sitting and then just have as a reference or to give out to other members of your team to say, we could be doing this better, and here's some models, mental models, thought processes that we could use that have been used in other industries, and we can bring over here to make our company better.
Yeah. So what do you see as the future of the book now that you have it, now that it's there? What's your plans for how you're actually going to be able to take this book and implement change?
So the book is, going on, frankly, having discussions like this, trying to get in front of as many potential leaders in the industry who are interested in picking it up and reading something quick, but then thinking about how do we then apply that to our own operations, and to be a resource. And some of that may benefit Cumulus, some of it may just be a resource in the industry to help people on their journey. Everybody's starting from a different place,
Yeah.
and it's something that I am incredibly passionate about. If the book itself helps, that's awesome. And then I would love to be able to help as well to the best as I can.
So to those in our audience that might be in the industries that you're serving and talking to, or even ones that may just be thinking right now, what are some ways in which maybe I can implement some of what you're proposing in my business? What would be some suggestions that you would have to those people that would be asking those kind of questions?
Yep. So yeah, great question. And in the book, we talk about a framework called systems thinking, and that comes from the concept of systems engineering. And what that means is every piece of a system, whether that system is an airplane or a building or whatever it might be, every piece relates to everything else, and as opposed to looking at very siloed work processes. So the first is thinking about your system wherever you're working, and think broadly about it. Think about not only the people who work directly under you, but what are the other actors upon whatever your business is, whether it's supply chain, other vendors, your customers, regulators, whatever it might be. Think about your system as broadly as possible, and we give some examples and tools of how to do that so that people can step outside of their immediate environment and the people that they immediately work with every day, because very often the causes of whatever quality challenges people are facing are probably several steps removed from directly what we're doing. I mean, of course, you could sometimes someone lacks training, or some software system like Cumulus's can come in and immediately provide benefit. But more often than not, especially at legacy industries that have been around for a while, there are just bad habits and bad practices that develop all over the place. So one example would be, we often see someone comes in wanting new technology to manage a workforce, but we end up seeing that their procurement system is not tailored to what they're actually doing, and their contracts are completely inappropriate. And there's a lot they could do with contracting and providing the right incentives and aligning incentives. And it's not a technology problem they're facing, it's a contracting problem they're facing. Or maybe there's an HR system where their people aren't being rewarded for taking appropriate risks, and people are punished for risks, and people it's just reinforcing a resistance to change and improvement. And you could look at a lot of those systems and see how you can get better, and how everything interrelates to each other. And then the second thing is, when you're identifying your solution, to think about it quantitatively of what improvement you're looking for. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. There's a gut feel of, well, we're going to try something out and it'll work or it won't, but you don't really do good metrics in how you're improving. And so thinking about the business outcomes you want to achieve, turning those into quantifiable metrics so you can evaluate whatever change, whether it's technology change, system change, process change. You can do that quantitatively and really see objectively whether what you're doing is working or not, or you have to go do something else.
Yeah. You say you really have to take a very holistic approach then to look at everything and see where your points of failure and points of successes are. Do you ever get any pushback? I know that sometimes when you're working with a business, you're going to run into people that say, I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. This is how I was taught to do it. I mean, how do you overcome those kind of situations?
Yeah, a lot of people, there's certainly that, as you just said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I am the expert in my own system. And that is why a quantitative approach is really important. Showing up with data, both in terms of the problem that you're facing. So it's not just an attack on somebody, where you're not doing your job right, and therefore that's why our operations are terrible. Be quantitative in identifying and quantifying both the problem and the solution. And so it takes some of that emotion out of it. You are always going to have human nature. By design, these are human problems, and you're going to have to deal with human nature. People will be defensive, and it's really about not making this, hey, we're an outside consulting company. Take it, McKinsey or who, McKinsey is often portrayed as the big bad wolf. We're having McKinsey come in, and their whole goal is just to fire people. And that's what we're going to come into.
The efficiency experts from
the efficiency expert, and the efficiency is just giving managers an excuse to reduce staff, and that's not what this is about. And that's why we're not focusing on business efficiency or cutting costs. This is about improving work quality in a facility. That means everybody should want to create the highest quality product you can, whether that product is a widget in a manufacturing plant, or it's construction and maintenance at a facility, which is what we focus on, most people want to do a good job. People aren't looking to do things to mess up. But people are defensive, and you just have to go in it with openness, compassion, and and numbers and data. And it's not about you're fired or you're rewarded. It's we can be doing better. Let's all get together and do it. And usually we're able to be successful in creating that team all for one environment once we can get over the defensiveness and people don't think we're just coming in to audit them or to result in job cuts. It's no, we can be doing this better. Here's some other examples of similar companies that have done things that we could try. And here's how we're going to know if we're successful or not. And it's going to be transparent. And transparency is key and to everybody involved. That,
I think that's why having a book
with.
is also, something that really helps, because that's something that you immediately can get to know you and get to trust you before you actually even get in the door. And you can put your data right there. It was going through my mind as I hear this, I think about like the pushback against football analytics that happened that stopped because everybody realized those analytics worked.
I mean,
the
it's the
statistics are
Moneyball
correct
from
in how they
baseball,
do
the
it.
Moneyball example, right? With the Oakland
Yeah,
A's.
exactly. Once people started to realize if I implement these steps properly, I will get positive results.
Exactly.
And exactly, Moneyball, the book, the movie, things like that bolstered that kind of
And
case.
that they're going to look at their own business in a way that is completely different than they've ever looked at it
Yeah.
before, and probably with some surprises on the upside and the downside. And those surprises on the downside usually result in opportunities to improve. And you could define improvement in a bunch of different ways, but opportunities to improve their own businesses that they would never have crossed their mind through traditional, however they've been managing their business in the past.
Right, right. So I want to take a little bit of a pivot here, because
Sure.
obviously our audience, they're interested in books. Many of them are thinking about writing a book.
Yeah.
When did you decide to make the leap from I have this idea, I wanted to write it down, to actually say I'm going to get this in 200 pages or less and get it out on a shelf somewhere?
Yeah, well, what I started doing is writing, I think like a lot of authors, writing blog posts and
Mm-hmm.
writing different ideas. And I was working with the marketing person at our company. I'll give her credit. Her name is Gabby Small, and she is phenomenal. And we were working together on writing all kinds of blog posts, and a lot of it was directly marketing Cumulus's products and services, as you would expect. I'm the CEO of the company. But then a lot of the blogs we ended up writing were more general about advice from my own experience and my team's own experience working with all kinds of customers. And it just it was really, I guess, I was about to say last year, but it's 2024. So in
Yeah.
2022, um, towards middle to end of 2022, we kind of realized, we have a lot of content here that deserves more than a blog. We don't want to write a 300-page thesis, but it's more than a blog, and there's a lot that go together. And so late 2022 is when we started thinking, let's start putting all these ideas together in the form of a book, and and make it a coherent story, for lack of a better term. It's nonfiction, but a story from beginning to end, that really is designed with the reader in mind, who's looking to implement something new in their own business. And the book kind of just developed a life of its own from there, and kind of just putting these together and expanding on what we'd already written about. And then getting in touch with Leaders Press, I forgot, it was spring of 2023 or so, to work to actually turn it into a publication.
Yeah. And how did you find the process? I mean, a lot of people are intimidated by the idea of writing a book. That's why many of them haven't done it, just because of all the work that goes into it. So how did you, obviously with the work helping Leaders Press helped you out, but how are
Yeah.
some other ways in which you yourself were able to overcome the obstacles that people find?
Yeah, it was certainly a lot of work. I would not, say it wasn't, but because the book is largely about my own experiences and something I end up talking with our customers about all the time. It really was one, it was a passion project, and it was something I enjoy writing about and talking about. So it was fun to kind of put these into organized thoughts for the first time. And then I've always enjoyed writing. So the actual act of writing, I know a lot of people are intimidated by the act of writing, but I've always enjoyed it and have done it in a lot of writing of different types in the past. So that part itself wasn't intimidating. It was just recognizing, yep, this is going to be a lot of work. This is going to take time. You can't rush it, and having a great team to help you.
Yeah. And obviously, the incentive for you is that there's potentially a large amount of return on investment that you're going to be able to get from having this book out there. That, you know, avenues of generation of ROI that wouldn't have been there without it ever being in a book in the first place.
That's right, because I could not have reached the number of people that you could reach with a book in the same level of depth as you do otherwise. So hopefully the book is widely read, and at least in our target, our target audience reads it and recommends it to their colleagues and their friends, and then it generates interest in what Cumulus does, and the expertise that my team and I have to help companies get better. And that's our passion. Our passion is we look at that 30% rework rate and we say that's unacceptable to us,
Mm-hmm.
and it should be unacceptable to society, and it should be unacceptable to every business manager, administrator, executive out there. And we can work together, and we have a proven method for how to get that down to as close to zero as you possibly can. And that's our passion, and that's what we want to do.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you, just talking to our staff internally, they all love the book.
Great.
It's on my reading list. I'm going to definitely check it out. But yeah, it's getting a lot of good buzz with us. So Matt, one of the things I like to do as we kind of start to wind down our conversation, I always give you the floor for a few minutes to maybe cover something that we haven't talked about, something I didn't ask a question about, a golden nugget, something that you feel like our audience can take and immediately run with it just after hearing this conversation. So what do you have for them?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually really excited about what's happening with artificial intelligence
Yep.
and the accessibility of artificial intelligence in the market. Last year was the year of ChatGPT and other similar software, but I am a firm believer that we are at the beginning of a new age of computing and of interfacing with technology. And I'm someone who's normally skeptical of a lot of hype cycles, but I've seen the real benefits. And I would encourage people, when they're thinking about improving their businesses, whether it's work quality or something else, to be open to this sort of change. There's things that people can do with artificial intelligence that we're doing internally at my own company to just make people more productive and efficient at their jobs. I don't think people should fear job loss. Sure, certainly with any technological advancement that's going to happen in isolated cases, but I think it's a net positive for society, and I think certainly it will help us use and interact with data and information that we have at our disposal in a way that we've never been able to do before. And I am super excited about that, and I hope the audience is too. And you combine thinking about your business systematically with the new power of tools that we're just starting to see with AI. We as an industry should really we are going to surprise ourselves to the upside with how much we can improve our businesses and generally the world at large.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with you. I think that within 10 years, we're going to be looking at this time as almost like the end of a dark age because of just the amount of streamlining and the amount of it's not going to be replacing people. It's going to be able to help them work more efficiently and work better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a great statistic I heard not too long ago that in construction, more than 90% of data that's created during the construction of a building is not used by anybody. And that's
Yeah.
because all of that data is inaccessible to the current systems that we have. It's not structured properly. It's not in a format that makes sense. And what artificial intelligence, and then humans have to look at it, and there's only so much humans can process because we only have so much processing power in our brains. But what artificial intelligence can do is just like humans can take unstructured data and see patterns and make sense out of it, artificial intelligence can help us do that at scale. And imagine if we go from only using about 10% of the data we generate in construction to 50, 60, 70% of it, just how much better we can be. And that's just one little example of how this is going to help us really be better as a society and as an industry.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, Matt, how can our audience find out more about you?
Best way, I'm active on LinkedIn, is the social network, media network that I'm most active on. So just look me up, Matthew Kleiman. Should be pretty easy to find me at Cumulus. You could also reach out directly through Cumulus and email me directly at matt@cumulusds.com, and Matt with 2 T's, cumulusds.com. But LinkedIn is probably the best way. I do check it and I do respond. So I really look forward to hearing from everybody.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those links are below, and the book is Work Done Right, which you can also find a link to embedded in this podcast. Matt, it was fun. I'm glad that we didn't get off topic because I was afraid we were both airplane heads, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
So I was afraid I was going to go a little too far on the aerospace. So I was on my best behavior there.
Yeah, me too. We avoided geeking out too much over airplanes. So congratulations to us, and I'm sure the audience is grateful.
Absolutely. Matt, it was a pleasure. We look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thanks, Andrew. Enjoyed being here. Thank you.